If you need some help, then it's time for Mr. English Teacher. Gotta read some literature, then here it is, it's Mr. English Teacher.
Last week I shared with you a poem by Theodore Retke entitled Elegy for Jane. My student thrown by a horse to sort of help illustrate to my students just exactly where I'm coming from as a teacher. And this week I'm going to share a poem with you that's a little bit different, but really I think we'll all understand, as you'll see, that is where we're all coming from at some point. I shared with you last week that poems are often just about love, death, and shiny things. But this poem is about love, death, shiny things, and taxes, but not exactly taxes so much as Tariff, which is the title of the poem. Tariff by Boisseau. It takes time to appreciate how I once made a friend so unhappy. The next night on the road from Chauncey to Amesville, Ohio, she steered her Fiat Spider head-on into an oncoming truck. Her boyfriend identified her waitress uniform. She's been dead now for more than 20 years. What I did to hurt her I won't tell you, so you're free to imagine any vicious, self-indulgent, hapless blunder or crime, while I go about turning this into a poem again. Turning over heavy marl, the garden in spring, and the wind picks up, flinging soil against my neck, behind my ears, into my teeth. You have to get dirty. What appreciate means is to price. After living a while, you understand the ways you have to pay. So, a few things about this remarkable poem. It's pretty much perfection. But she begins in this wonderful way with the title, and we have these sort of preconceived notions. What the heck is a tariff, and why is there a poem named after it? Of course, a tariff is a tax on imports, which of course gets passed on to the consumer, but that's neither here nor there. I often have to tell my students or ask them if they know what a Fiat Spider is. In 19... I drove my mother's Fiat Spider for about 6 hours, about 6 minutes after I got my driver's license. So I show them this picture. I think there are about 16 pleats on those pants. But the point is, you have this really long sentence that does not end until right about here, when you know what's going on. And she didn't swerve, she steered. The intent was there. And then, of course, the detail. Her boyfriend identified her waitress uniform. We do not need to know how mangled she was. We're told with that detail. She's been dead now for more than 20 years. Another detail. And then we have some tone-ish moments where she gets frustrated with the reader. What I did to hurt her, I won't tell you. And you're like, hey, I'm just reading your poem. But sometimes, particularly in poems, yous are often more self-reflective. While I go about turning this into a poem again, literally the poem continues after this stanza break and this caesura, right? But then she turns it over, turning over heavy marl, this kinesthetic energy to the heavy marl, which is fertilizer. It's pretty olfactory, you're going to smell that. The garden in spring, and the wind picks up, flinging soil against my neck, behind my ears, and then finally, gustatorily, into your teeth. This guilt she's eating it, for God's sakes, 20 years after. Then she tells us quite plainly that you have to get dirty. Nothing salacious here. This is simply about life's messes. What appreciate means is to price. What do we owe? To whom do we owe it? You understand the ways you have to pay, which is this brilliant line, completely written in iambic pentameter. You understand the ways you have to pay. The rest of the poem's free verse. And then you get this last line, which is harkens and haunts us, because most poems in English were written in meter for millennia. And here we have this final line, and it's perfect. But soft what light through yonder window breaks, you understand the ways you have to pay. And I share this with my kids because I'm hopeful at this point that they haven't had much of a wake. But as my favorite poet says, Mary Oliver, in every heart there's a coward and a procrastinator. And this poem talks about that idea of time and mistakes that we make, inadvertent cruelties, sometimes advertent, but it's all messy, and you have to learn how to own it. And you understand finally that you're always paying for it.